a magic leverage suddenly is caught that moves the veiled ineffable's timeless will. A prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. So it is this possibility that the human being can sometimes find that he can fulfill, he can really arrive at when he can get in touch with the veiled ineffable. There is an ineffable, there is a presence, there is something which is beyond description, and it is there all around, within us, everywhere. But we have perhaps forgotten, or we don't even know that we can connect with it. Sometimes there are moments when we do, when we can. And that is the leverage. That moment where we find that within us there is a force, a power, a presence that can put us in connection with that will. It can take the form of an inspiration or an idea. It can take the form of a prayer which comes up from deep within us. What is deep within us is He, is the Divine. And so what prays to the Divine above is the Divine within. And that is where we can find that the sense of closeness, the kinship that comes when we truly, sincerely pray. And that is what inspires a person to go beyond himself. That is the master act. There are moments where we do that which we are normally, we don't even believe we can. An inspired action, an inspired work. It's not us. Another force works through us. That's what the hero does. That's what the artist does. That's what the saint does. He becomes an instrument of a force, even if it's for a while, like a great hero for a while, becomes the channel of a force other than himself. But these are moments which can link man's strength to a force greater than himself, means that there is within us a force greater than what we call ourselves. We are more than what we think we are. Only we don't bother to look for that presence, to connect with it. Once we have connected, to stay constantly in touch with it. If that can be done, then there is such a new possibility of progress that opens up before us. Otherwise, we fall back into the ordinariness, where we accept our limitations, we accept the laws of of darkness, of ignorance and error that constantly pull us down. That is what, in the next line, perhaps what he calls nature's massed machinery. All now seems nature's massed machinery, because there is this universal energy, this energy that is at work from the world of the original unconsciousness, in the world of matter, in the world of the life that first emerges out of matter. It follows a certain fixed pattern, and we are part of that pattern. This is what is Prakriti, this is the unconsciousness that is really, and yet flawless unconscious energy. It doesn't make mistakes, it follows its own rhythms and patterns, and we are part of it. Man is also made of matter, and he has to follow that law. He can break out, that can be done, but it is not usually done. Otherwise, we are part of the lower creation, the lower nature is there. So all now seems nature's mass machinery. A machine doesn't seem to have a choice, a will. It follows the pattern, the rules on which it is made, by which it follows its own rhythms and patterns, and we are like that. An endless servitude to material rule, and long determination's rigid chain. This is the servitude, the slavery to the rule of ignorance and finally death. What starts, ends. It makes its regular curve of the movement of birth, growth, decay, death. It doesn't seem to be able to break out of that pattern. Determination has many meanings. Here, determination is what is determined, fixed not by man, but by this energy. It is a fixed law. We have to accept to walk on that, along that groove, along that pattern that has been established. We can't break out because we would like to be different. We would like to change the laws. We might want to change, but unless we change our servitude to the lower creation, we cannot break out. We are prisoners. And that is the fixed rule. Rigid rule. Her firm and changeless habits. Aping law. This is not the dharma. One of the names of death is dharma. Dharma is law. But it is not. It is here, this lower unconscious play of energy, or rather the play of the unconscious energy. It's not an unconscious play. It is a well-regulated, extremely fixed. But how does that unconsciousness follow such a regulated pattern? When man is normally unconscious, he doesn't know what he's doing. His movements are uncontrolled. And yet this energy is flawless. Its pattern follows a very regular pattern. It has been fixed, which presumes that deep within this unconsciousness there is something that controls the force. Otherwise this force would break out in any form, any matter. It would be random. It is never random. It's very well regulated. And which is why he says it looks like a law that you have to obey. But it can be altered, which is why he says aping law. Imitating mindlessly, like the ape copies, without understanding why it is copying, what it signifies. But man is not very different. We often follow certain rules and laws without knowing why. We are bound by certain movements. Our natures pull us in different directions, which I can't help it. This is the way I am made. I can be different, but I don't want to try, perhaps. So man follows his swabhava, his nature, his pattern. But it is the beginning of a very slow journey of evolution. In the world of matter, there emerges the first signs of life. And it's very progressive. And out of that world of life, which may be plant life, you have a more vital, semi-conscious animal life. And then you have a material, living being who starts to manifest mind much more clearly. But there is a regular development. It is not that it is not there. So he says here, nature's firm, changeless habits, aping law, her empire of unconscious deft device. They seem to be opposite words. Because deft is very skillful. Something that is really well worked out. It is devised, planned out. But by whom? What is this force that is regulating creation? Who is regulating? What is behind this force? No one seems to be there. In the world of matter, there seems to be no presence of the divine. There is no controller, but it is in full, perfect order. One of the signs of consciousness is order. Disorder is unconsciousness. And the patterns of matter is very well ordered. Every atom is in its place. Everything has its own rhythm. It is a well organized material universe. And even when life begins, this organization doesn't break up. A new element comes, manifests itself without disturbing the old order. Matter doesn't cease to be. Life emerges out of matter. But there is some kind of a control, of force, that is working out this pattern. Only this consciousness is not evident. We don't see, we don't know who is controlling it. So it seems to be nature. This seems to be Prakriti, as the word krit is to do. So she who does, but she stays in the background, but she does her work perfectly in a regulated manner.
Jhumur, should we not make a difference between the mechanical nature and then supernature? Can you say the difference?
There is another, actually, fundamentally there are two aspects of the same. But it's like when we are unconscious, nature has its own rules and laws and they control us. When we have grown in consciousness, we find that that same nature is an expression of the universal Shakti.
And so she kind of stands behind and you can discover her in yourself.
Yes, so she is the Mahashakti. That is what is, this is what is the mother. This is the mother power. Creation is an expression that has been as if manifested by, like all birth is given by a mother. So the Lord is the consciousness. The mother gives shape, form, manifestation to that consciousness. Now, when we see the material universe, you don't see a divine mother power, but you see a force that is at work all the time. It never ceases. Everything is part of a great, well-planned, you might say, manifestation. And if you go far enough, which you should, slowly you realize that there is a progressive emergence of light out of darkness.
Yeah, and so you have Prakriti and Mahapriti.
This is called the Apara Prakriti, that is the Para Prakriti.
Apara and?
Para.
Para.
Apara Prakriti is the lower nature or lower creation, but it is the same force on the higher level is the Para Prakriti or the Divine Mother. But she's at work on every level. So when we are ourselves unconscious, we feel trapped. There is a force that we can't come out of. I have my physical body, I can't control it. I have a vital nature, I can't control it. I have a mind that sometimes understands that I should learn to control myself and yet I can't always do it. I realize my limitations. But as I grow, I become aware. The fact that you can realize that you have limitations is already the beginning of consciousness. Like, and even a plant or an animal accepts its state. You won't think that, say, the bird or the plant wants to suddenly become something else. But man, when he finds that he is not perfect, he can dream of perfection. He can dream of something greater. He does not have to accept himself the way he is. But first he has to realize the way he is. What are his limits and how to break out of them. Because it is a very complex network of forces. Of the physical, the vital, the material, the mental, they're all this subconscious. All of these are, it's like as if we are caught in this network. You can dream of freedom. One of the greatest dreams we have is freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from all this dependence on other forces. But how can I come out of it? How do I come out of it? I have to first know this world that has caught me in its net. Then I can learn to master one by one all these forces and talk of freedom. Because freedom is something that that means we become divine. Freedom is another, absolute freedom is an expression of the Supreme. Only the Supreme is free. No other being can be free. We are all dependent on something other than ourselves.
Until we depend on the
I
one.
can't breathe on my own, can I? I need the energy that is given. And only then can I survive. I am not the author of this energy. I did not create this energy. So how... And yet we keep on talking, what is freedom? Freedom, you are free, you say, you were in school, you were free. What is meant by freedom? Freedom to do what you like. Isn't it? That's what you think as a child, in a free system, you're free. That means you're dependent on your likes and your dislikes, your desires. They rule you, they control you. It's very complex. To be without desire is the first sign of freedom. Absolutely no attachment, no desire, utterly free. This, otherwise, man who claims to be a free being is annulled. This claim is annulled. Her empire of unconscious device annulled the claim of man's free human will. Otherwise, we speak of freedom, but it's a claim that it's just so much hot air, it is not really there, just a word. Because we are part of this lower creation, we cannot deny it. He too is a machine amid machines. This lower energy, its mechanical laws control us as well. A beating heart, a piston brain pumps out the shapes of thought. I did not make my brain, it's an organ. It follows its rules. So maybe thought waves come into the head, but manifest itself according to the nature of the brain. There are small brains, there are wider brains, there are richer brains. So the thoughts that emerge from the brain vary from person to person. A beating heart cuts out emotions' modes. The heart is an involuntary muscle, isn't it, Archana? I can't control it. And yet sometimes when I am angry or I am afraid or I am happy, maybe the heart beats a little faster or a little more, but it's still an involuntary machine. We are machines. Our brain, it's involuntary, our heart, all these are involuntary organs. My arm is not. I can lift my arm, I can raise it, or I can put it down, but I can't. My heart beats without my giving commands to it. It beats by itself. My brain functions without my telling it to function. So it is something, we are part of this mechanical universe. And this beating heart cuts out emotions, moods. It puts it in a pretty ironical manner. You have small hearts, and you have small feelings. You have wider, larger hearts that are more open. And so you might have a heart that can not be so self-centered, open to greater things. So there are selfish people and less selfish people, but they're all basically, essentially trapped in the human mold. An insentient energy fabricates a soul. This is the approach of certain schools of philosophy. Certain schools of philosophy like materialism, positivism, they don't believe in anything other than what is material. And when you speak of soul, what is soul? It's you, it's your personality, it's your nature, they say. What has made this being called you? The energy that is there everywhere, as if it has become, congealed, coagulated, and created you, what you call it, ego, or you may call it soul, you call it I. But it is not the divine. There is no question of man being divine if one identifies oneself with this approach, because there are many approaches, many ways of looking at the human being. This is one, and it has its validity. Or the figure of the world reveals the signs of a tide chance repeating her old steps. The figure of the world, I understand it to be man, the most conscious of all the earthly beings, but who tries out some new ways of being, the discovery of even invention. But sometimes we break out and see a new possibility, but it is out of we can't control it, we can't demand it. It is like chance, a sudden vision, a sudden revelation, a sudden inspiration, which is really often described as a chance happening. Chance is something which is a part of the vocabulary of ignorance. I don't know what brought about this moment, and I don't know what will follow from this moment. This moment happened, just like that. I am not really in charge of my life. I speak of myself as an individual, and I am actually slave of the universal forces. That is the thing. Man likes to call himself an individual. Where is this individuality? Where is this person? And where is it located? In his mind, in his heart, in his body? All of this is part of the universal nature. There is nothing that is really he, if he identifies himself with just this. So he is, now and then there may be some kind of a variation, like a flash, a vision. So it's like a chance happening, but tide chance, he says, because it cannot be mastered. You are still slaves. Repeating her old steps in circles around matter's binding posts gives you the image of a certain form of movement and accepting slavery, like it was. There were matter's posts. There are posts, and in the olden times, bullocks, for instance, were tied to the post and they had to go round and crush the oil seeds. They walk around the post and they crush the oil seeds. Man, this gave to the bullock maybe a notion of movement, some kind of activity. But was it free? We also think that if I move, I am alive, but where am I going? In all this activity that I do, I go here, I go there. What am I really finally achieving? Have I arrived anywhere? I am trapped by the binding post of my body. That is matter. I am not free.
Jhumurji, we are going round and round and round and round and round and faster and faster and faster.
I don't think it's fast, it goes slower and slower. It becomes slow, mechanical, we get bored. But that is, you live to die, and then you are born again and you live to die, and you don't know why, you don't know where you are going.
What are we doing? Come on.
Exactly.
Get out of this.
We are trapped, we don't even ask ourselves. We say, this is the pattern, this is the law, we have to be like this. So we are in that state.
So
and yet
then we
there is an
focus,
illusion
no?
of being an individual, being alive, doing this, doing that, wanting this, being able to do that. It is so short-lived, so illusory. Finally, we are slaves.
No.
Ultimately, we are slaves.
We need to focus, right, and get out of it.
Exactly. A random series of inept events to which reason lends elusive sense is here. This is the notion of this way of looking at life, which finally certain philosophers will say all this is pointless, is useless. Reason lends elusive sense. You say, I am doing this for this purpose, I am doing that for that purpose, I want to become some such person. All those things, life is a series of events. Oh my goodness. Another random series of events.
Inept.
It's meant to show the darkness that we're in. Let's go with it. You can keep going.
Well.
I know. We accept it totally. There. You should
I don't think I can.
You can put it- yeah,
No,
you
it's
should-
okay.
There
I
you
can.
go. See? In the light.
Shall I? Oh, it's okay. It's going to stay like that.
A random series of inept events to which reason lends its own explanations is here. Or the empiric life's instinctive search, or a vast ignorant mind's colossal work. That's how it is. Empiric has nothing to do with empire, by the way. Empiric is that which is verified by experience, by fact. It's not idealistic, it's not idealism which is the creation of the idea. Empiricism is that which is verified by actual external experience. What you can touch, see, hear, smell, it's not something that is non-existent. You say, no, I have seen this, I have touched it, it is true. That's all. This empiric life search. What do we search in our physical existence? Search for some kind of happiness, some kind of fulfillment, but it's a vast, ignorant mind's colossal work. We can't break out. That this is the state in which man is. We can stop with the next line, which is very hopeful. But wisdom comes. A moment of change and growth does come, and vision grows within. And that is the important thing. If we live on the surface and our whole consciousness is really in touch with the surface, this is what we are. If we live within, we can get in touch with that inner presence, then nature's instrument crowns himself her king. Man who lived on the surface and obeyed the laws of the surface world of nature finds the source of inner truth within him. He can then master nature. Then man can slowly break out of his bondage to ignorance. He feels his witnessing self and conscious power that is within him. There is a divine consciousness. His soul steps back and sees the light supreme. This is the, you might say, a freedom, the soul's release from ignorance, which is Canto 3. He's preparing us for this. Man can be released from the bondage to ignorance. As long as we are bound by ignorance, we are slaves. So that is man. A Godhead stands behind the brute machine. Man is a machine, as he has just said, but there is a divinity that stands behind. All depends on what we identify ourselves with. If we identify ourselves with the surface nature, we are machines. If we can discover that inner presence that is always there, we are not just machines. We can become one with that consciousness. We can perhaps alter the mechanism. And this was what happened in the case of Savitri. So he brings back the central character. This truth broke in a triumph of fire. Savitri, in a triumph of fire, why did she have to go through this? They go back to the first canto. It is the experience of pain and death, the death of Satyavan, that has made her go through her own personal yoga. There is, in the epic, as I told you, there is a movement of back and forth, and the beginning of the story is not always recounted in the beginning. The story starts in the middle. So Savitri, who until she had to meet the force of great love, the love that would really, she experienced and knew that with the power of this love she would conquer death. Death had naturally decided to fight against her. It's a battle. Because it is when Narad tells her that this is the day that Satyavan must die, that is when she says, my love is greater than death, is greater, stronger than fate and greater than death. Now, this is a sentence nobody can speak very easily. That it can conquer fate and death. But it is because of the opposition that we face, and this is true for all of us. When we face difficulties and oppositions, that is when we can draw from within us the strength, the power to overcome the difficulty. Unless we have difficulties, we don't feel the need to strengthen our natures. Savitri too. So she was told of this difficulty. She also realized that it is not a small thing to be able to say, conquer death. This is the universal law. But she is who then? Universal love. The divine love that has come on earth to liberate the earth soul from the bondage to death. And this, in this one line, he tells us what will be the end of the story, a triumph of fire. It's a battle and there will be victory. A victory was won for God in man. Not for herself, because she did not have to face difficulties in her own nature. She is the Supreme Divine Mother. She has come down on earth, put on a human aspect, gone through the human experience, and has broken out of the fixed pattern of human suffering. That is the rest of the book, the story. The deity revealed its hidden face. The great world mother now in her arose. So we are told very clearly who she is and why she has come. A living choice reversed fate's cold, dead turn. We are all trapped by fate. But it is the word that he uses, a living choice. We have the choice to be divine, to come out of the bondage to death. We are given this choice. We have been given a divine consciousness, and it lodges inside us. It is deep inside us, very often forgotten, unwanted, disbelieved, so it stays in the background. But if we bring it out into the open, if we allow it to take over, it can change our surface nature. It can change even the way the world has followed its law of pain and death up to now. This is why she has come. A living choice reversed fate's cold dead turn, affirmed the spirit's tread on circumstance. That is the opposition again. Circumstance, fate, birth, death. This is the pattern. There are always reasons, outward circumstances that bring about the final failure of man. And the other side, the spirit has the ability to break out of this. If we can find it inside us and unite our consciousness with that. So she is going to do that. The spirit will affirm its power on circumstance. Pressed back the senseless, dire, revolving wheel. Otherwise, it is this nature's massed machinery. It's the same wheeling of all the material universe, of rising and falling, and repeating the same pattern over and over again, and stopped the mute march of necessity. Necessity is this inherent law. Necessity is that which has to be. We say death has to be. Life will necessarily end with this kind of final expression. There is, or non-expression if you like. There is no freedom of choice to live forever. The spirit says we can. Her spirit, she is therefore one who has come on earth to fight for earth, to fight for man, to fight for the human spirit. A flaming, these are 4 lines which are very beautiful, describing her. A flaming warrior from the eternal peaks, empowered to force the door, denied and closed. The door of inconscience, the door of ignorance, that is behind which sleeps the Supreme Consciousness, but the door remains closed. She will break down that barrier. So a flaming warrior from the eternal peaks, empowered to force the door denied and closed, smote from death's visage its dumb absolute and burst the bounds of consciousness and time. So this is who she is. This is what she's going to do. This is the summary of Savitri, the whole poem. She will break down the absolute authority that death seems to have on life. Life is the daughter of eternity, but it has become the companion of death. So she has come and she burst the bounds of our present state of semi-consciousness, which is why we are born. Time is the limit, time is the fixed pattern out of which we seem to be unable to come out. But we are children of immortality and eternity. So she has come to fight our battles for us. So this is the end of Canto 2.